Some lessons don't arrive in classrooms. They arrive in circumstance. You don't choose them. You inherit them. And years later, you realize they've been shaping how you move through the world. You know, I think some of the earliest lessons life taught me was responsibility. Not authority, responsibility. And there's a difference. See, being the oldest of three boys in a single parent household meant responsibility arrived early. Not because someone sat down and formally assigned it. It simply became part of the environment, part of the air, and part of the expectation. And when responsibility arrives early enough, something interesting happens. You become dependable, capable, aware. You learn to carry things. You learn to help. You learn to adapt. And sometimes, more often than not, you learn to absorb consequences that were never truly yours. You learn to manage outcomes you didn't create. Navigate decisions you didn't make. Carry weight you didn't choose. And what you really don't learn is where your responsibility ends. That lesson took me years to understand because for a long time I thought maturity meant carrying more. You take on more, carry more, absorb more. And to be fair, there are seasons when life genuinely asks more of you. Because people depend on you, responsibilities increase, pressure arrives. But eventually, I came to understand something different. Responsibility without authority becomes a burden. Because authority gives shape to responsibility. Authority creates boundaries. Authority creates stewardship. And authority creates discernment. Without it, everything starts to feel like your problem. Everything starts feeling like your assignment. And absolutely every little thing starts feeling like your responsibility to solve. And if you're someone like me who genuinely cares about people, you learn That's an exhausting way to live. Because compassion without boundaries becomes depletion. Service without stewardship becomes exhaustion. Responsibility without authority becomes weight. I didn't fully understand this when I was younger. And honestly, I'm not sure many people do. You spend years becoming useful. Then one day you realize being useful and being responsible for everything is not the same thing. And given my upbringing, faith helped me understand that. When I look back at Scripture, I don't see God asking people to carry everything. I see Him asking them to steward what was assigned to them. Joseph had an assignment. Nehemiah had an assignment. Moses had an assignment. Not ownership of everything, stewardship of something. I also grew up hearing another story that began speaking to me differently as I got older. The parable of the 10 virgins. Because for years, I thought being a capable person of faith meant carrying everyone, helping everyone, fixing everything, absorbing every burden. But when I revisit the story now, I notice something different. The wise virgins had oil. The foolish virgins did not. When midnight came, everyone trimmed their lamps. Everyone faced the same moment. Everyone heard the same call. But preparation could not be transferred at the last minute. What strikes me isn't a lack of compassion. It's a lesson in stewardship. The wise did not absorb responsibility for what someone else failed to prepare. They did not take ownership for what was never assigned to them. They understood something I've spent years learning. Compassion and responsibility are not always the same thing. Sometimes love helps. Sometimes love teaches. Sometimes love serves. And sometimes love allows people to carry the consequences of their own stewardship. Because if the wise had surrendered their oil, eventually, no one would have had enough light. That realization changed me. I began to understand that responsibility is not the same as rescue. And stewardship is not selfishness. Sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is tend your lamp. That is true spirituality. Emotionally, relationally, professionally. Because if you spend your life pouring from reserves, you never replenish. Eventually, the light begins to dim. And that's not stewardship. That's depletion. Lately, I've been thinking about that idea, even in small daily rhythms. The way we manage our attention, the way we manage our energy, the way we steward our capacity. Which is actually why I've appreciated discovering Savorista coffee. One of the things I like about what they're doing is that they're not built around stimulation. They're built around intentionality. Their premium craft decaf and half-calf coffees deliver rich flavor, which fully allows you to be more intentional about your energy. Small batch roasted, ethically sourced, naturally decaffeinated. And honestly, that feels aligned with what we're talking about today. Stewardship, not excess. I understand that a lot of people assume decaf means sacrificing quality. But Savorista genuinely surprised me. The flavor is rich, balanced, and thoroughly crafted. And I'm excited to share that Quiet Maverick listeners, you're being offered an exclusive 25% off discount. So, I think it's one of their highest offers, and if you'd like to try it, visit Savorista.com and use the promo code SIGNAL8. That's Savorista.com, promo code SIGNAL, the number 8. One thing I've come to understand is that maturity isn't learning how to carry everything. It's learning what actually belongs in your hands. Some burdens belong to us. Some don't. Some outcomes belong to us. Some don't. Some responsibilities belong to us. Some don't. And wisdom is often found in knowing the difference. The older I get, the more I realize that peace isn't found in becoming stronger for every burden. Peace is often found by becoming more discerning about which burdens are actually yours. Maybe that's part of growing in authority. Not control, authority. The ability to recognize your assignment, the courage to steward it well. coupled with the humility to release what was never yours. So this week's Quiet Maverick Challenge is simple. Pay attention to one thing you've been carrying, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. Then ask yourself, is this actually mine to carry? Not whether it matters, not whether you care about it, not whether it's important. Simply whether it belongs under your stewardship. Sit with that answer. Reflect on it. Pray through it. And notice what shifts. Because sometimes clarity arrives the moment we stop carrying what was never assigned to us. This is the Quiet Maverick. I'm Gregory Michael. Thank you for spending this time with me. I don't take your attention lightly because where you place your attention is where your life begins to move. If this episode resonated with you, sit with it. And if the challenge reveals something meaningful, I'd love to hear what you notice. And if you'd like to continue the conversation, you can find me on social media at It's Gregory Michael. And share this episode with someone who may need it. That's how we keep the signal moving. Until next time, remember, not every burden belongs under your stewardship. Keep the signal moving.